Commander Rise watched the real-time tactical display as the Thunderchild's stealth systems engage. The ship's revolutionary quantum diffusion hull absorbed all sensor pings from the alien vessels, rendering them effectively blind to the human warship's approach. Navigation. Plot an intercept course that keeps Saturn between us and their main fleet until the last possible moment. Rise ordered, her voice steady despite the weight of responsibility pressing down on her shoulders. Every decision she made now would impact not just her crew, but potentially the fate of humanity itself. Lieutenant Suarez nodded, his fingers dancing across the holographic controls. Course plotted, Commander. ETA to intercept 12 minutes at current velocity. In the engine room, Chief Engineer Hassan monitored the experimental propulsion system with hawk-like intensity. The quantum core hummed at precisely 97.3% efficiency. Any higher risked detection by advanced sensors, any lower compromised their maneuverability. The core technology represented humanity's greatest leap forward, the culmination of theoretical physics that had once been dismissed as impossible. Engineering to bridge, Hassan reported. Core stability nominal. Ready for combat maneuvers on your mark. Rise acknowledged with a tap to her comm unit, then turned to Science Officer Dr. Chen. What more can you tell me about their technology? Chen frowned at her readings. Their hulls contain trace elements not found in our solar system. Quantum signatures suggest their weapons operate on principles similar to our theoretical models, but with significant differences in application. I believe they're utilizing cascading plasma technology wrapped in some form of gravitational manipulation. Can our shields withstand it? In theory, yes. The adaptive harmonics should automatically calibrate to their frequency. But until they fire on us. Chen left the sentence unfinished. Rise understood the implication. Untested theories were just that. Theories. The Thunderchild represented humanity's greatest technological achievement, but it had never faced an actual alien adversary. Communications Officer Garcia suddenly straightened in his chair. Commander, I've partially decoded their transmissions. They're preparing landing protocols for Earth. Multiple sites, coordinated deployment. They're discussing human physiology and, he hesitated, face paling. Optimal methods of subjugation. A chill silence fell over the bridge. The alien intentions were now unmistakable. Weapons check, Rise ordered, breaking the silence. Lieutenant Zhang at Tactical responded immediately. All systems green. Primary quantum cannon charged to 85%. Secondary particle arrays at full capacity. Defensive countermeasures online. Through the viewport, the rings of Saturn drifted past as the Thunderchild accelerated silently toward its destiny. The crew worked with practiced efficiency, each person aware that they represented humanity's first, and possibly last, line of defense. Executive Officer Rodriguez approached Rise, keeping his voice low. The crew's ready, Commander, but we should acknowledge the reality. We're one ship against an armada. The odds. The odds don't matter, XO. Rise interrupted, her gaze never leaving the tactical display. Only our actions do. Throughout history, humanity has faced overwhelming odds and survived because we refused to calculate our chances. We simply did what was necessary. She finally turned to him, determination etched in her features. We're not just fighting for ourselves. We're fighting for everyone back home who doesn't even know the threat exists yet. Rodriguez nodded, straightening. Yes, Commander. All stations, Rise addressed the bridge, her voice carrying the quiet authority that had earned her this command. Final preparations. We intercept in 5 minutes. She tapped her console, bringing up the image of Earth, a beautiful blue marble in the darkness of space. Remember what we're protecting. As the Thunderchild slipped past the last of Saturn's moons, its course set directly for the unsuspecting Sparnik Advance Fleet, Rise allowed herself one final private thought. History would either remember this as humanity's finest hour or its last stand. Either way, the aliens would learn that humans did not surrender without a fight. General Thravnak gripped the edges of his command console, compound eyes fixed on the impossibility before him. The quantum dust that had once been a Svarnik destroyer still shimmered in space, already dispersing into the void. 5,000 years of hegemony expansion had never encountered such a weapon, one that didn't just destroy a ship but unraveled its very atomic structure. Analytical report, he demanded, mandibles clicking rapidly in agitation. The science officer's appendages trembled as they manipulated the sensor controls. The human weapon operates on principles outside our established models, General. It appears to target the quantum binding force of matter itself, causing a cascading breakdown of molecular integrity. That technology should be beyond them, Thravnak hissed. Our intelligence indicated they had barely mastered nuclear fusion. On the bridge of the Thunderchild, Commander Reyes maintained her calm demeanor despite the surge of adrenaline coursing through her veins. The quantum cannon had performed exactly as designed, perhaps too well. She had intended to demonstrate human capability, not necessarily to destroy the alien vessel. Their fleet is regrouping, Lieutenant Zhang reported, forming a defensive shell around their command ship. Energy readings indicate they're charging weapons. Reyes nodded. Adjust shield harmonics to compensate. Let's see what they've got. The space between the vessels lit up as 12 Svarnik ships fired simultaneously, converging beams of superheated plasma wrapped in gravitational distortion fields. The combined firepower would have vaporized a small moon. The Thunderchild shuddered as the shields absorbed the brunt of the attack, energy readings spiking dangerously across all systems. Warning indicators flashed on multiple stations. Shield efficiency at 63%, reported Ensign Puddle from the engineering console. The adaptive algorithms are already compensating, recalibrating to match their attack frequency. Commander Reyes studied the tactical display, mind racing through options. A direct confrontation against 12 vessels simultaneously wasn't sustainable, even with their advanced technology. She needed to change the dynamics of the encounter. Helm. Execute Maneuver Echo 7. Weapons. Prepare targeted strikes on their communication arrays only. Lieutenant Rodriguez looked up sharply. Echo 7. Commander. That's never been tested outside simulation. Now seems like an appropriate time, Lieutenant, Reyes replied with the ghost of a smile. Execute. The Thunderchild suddenly accelerated to maximum velocity, then performed a maneuver that defied conventional physics, simultaneously appearing to fragment into multiple phantom images, while the actual vessel slipped between dimensions for a fraction of a second, reappearing directly within the Svarnik formation. Aboard his flagship, General Thravnak watched in stunned silence as the human vessel seemed to multiply, then vanish, then materialize impossibly close. Inside their defensive perimeter, where their weapons couldn't target without risking friendly fire. How? He began, but never finished the question. The Thunderchild fired precision bursts, targeting the communication arrays of each Svarnik vessel with surgical accuracy. Within seconds, the hegemony's coordinated defense collapsed as ship-to-ship communications failed. Their neural network is disrupted, Science Officer Chen announced. They'd lost their hive mind tactical advantage. Reyes opened a direct channel to the Svarnik flagship. The alien general's image appeared on screen, his expression unreadable to human eyes, but his rigid posture conveying shock. General Thravnak, she addressed him calmly. That was a fraction of our capability. Your ships are now isolated from each other, your sensors compromised, and your weapons ineffective against our defenses. I'm offering you one chance to withdraw from this system peacefully. The general's mandibles clicked in what might have been anger or disbelief. Who are you humans to make demands of the Svarnik hegemony? We have conquered 17 star systems. We have. You have never encountered us before, Reyes interrupted. Consider carefully whether you wish that first contact to be your species' last. A cold tension filled the void between adversaries as the galaxy held its breath, waiting for the general's response. General Thravnak's inner eyelids flickered rapidly, a sign of intense calculation among his species. The human commander's ultimatum hung in the vacuum between their vessels, a challenge without precedent in his long military career. Your species possesses technological capabilities beyond our intelligence reports, he finally acknowledged, his translated voice carefully modulated. Perhaps there has been a misunderstanding regarding your civilization's development stage. Commander Reyes maintained her unwavering gaze. No misunderstanding, General. Your forces attacked unprovoked. Your communications indicated intent to subjugate Earth. We responded appropriately. On the Thunderchild's bridge, Lieutenant Zhang kept his targeting systems locked on the Svarnik vessel's propulsion systems, ready to disable the entire fleet with a single command. The tension among the crew was palpable but controlled, each officer maintaining professional focus despite the historic nature of humanity's first alien confrontation. The Svarnik flagship is powering up secondary systems, Science Officer Chen reported quietly. They're activating something our sensors can't identify. Reyes nodded almost imperceptibly. Keep all defenses at maximum. Be ready for anything. General Thravnak's posture shifted subtly into what his species considered a diplomatic stance. Commander Reyes, clearly we must reassess our position. I propose a temporary cessation of hostilities while we establish proper communication protocols between our peoples. His mandibles twitched in a pattern that would signal sincerity to another Svarnik. To humans, the gesture was unreadable. Executive Officer Rodriguez leaned close to Reyes. He's stalling, Commander. Their auxiliary power signatures are fluctuating in a pattern consistent with covert communications. Reyes had already noticed the same anomaly. The Svarnik vessels appeared to be using a backup communication system, more primitive but effectively invisible to standard detection methods. They were coordinating something. General, she responded with calculated politeness, as a gesture of goodwill. We'll hold our position for 30 of our minutes while you withdraw your vessels beyond the orbit of the planet you call Eurakis. She used the Svarnik name for Neptune, deliberately revealing knowledge of their language to unsettle the general further. The alien commander's compound eyes widened momentarily before he recovered his composure. Acceptable terms, Commander. We will comply immediately. The communication ended, and the Svarnik vessels began slowly maneuvering away from Earth's inner system. They're retreating too methodically, Lieutenant Zhang observed. Standard withdrawal protocol would prioritize speed. Reyes tapped her command console, bringing up a three-dimensional representation of the solar system. They're positioning themselves into a formation. Lieutenant Chen analyzed their projected endpoints. Chen worked rapidly, her fingers flying across the holographic interface. Commander, if they continue on these vectors, they'll form a perfect hyperbolic array around the solar system's ecliptic plane. A sensor net, Reyes concluded. They're not leaving. They're establishing a surveillance perimeter. Communications Officer Garcia straightened suddenly in his chair. Commander, I'm detecting faint quantum-encrypted transmissions from the Svarnik flagship. They're sending a compressed data packet toward the edge of the system. Can you intercept? Reyes asked sharply. Garcia shook his head. Negative. It's using some form of quantum entanglement we can't access. Reyes' expression hardened. They're calling reinforcements. This was never going to be a single fleet action. It's an advance reconnaissance for a much larger force. She turned to face her bridge crew, decision already made. We know their intentions now. Lieutenant Rodriguez, plot an intercept course with the Svarnik flagship. Lieutenant Zhang, prepare to disable their propulsion and communication systems, non-destructive takedown protocols. And after we've neutralized their command vessel. Rodriguez asked. Commander Reyes' eyes reflected the cold light of distant stars. Then we're going to have a more honest conversation with General Thravnak about the Svarnik hegemony's plans for Earth and why that's going to change. The Thunderchild's engines hummed to life, its sleek form accelerating toward the alien flagship with the silent, deadly grace of a predator that had finally revealed itself. The quantum cannon's afterglow faded from the view screen as the Svarnik dreadnought collapsed in on itself, leaving nothing but scattered particles and stunned silence across all communication channels. Commander Reyes knew the demonstration had achieved its purpose, creating doubt in the alien fleet's collective mind. "Status of the remaining Svarnik vessels?" she asked, her voice breaking the tense quiet that had fallen over the bridge. Lieutenant Zhang studied his tactical display. "They're maintaining position at the system's edge, Commander. No further advance. Their weapon systems are powered but not targeting. They're reassessing," Reyes noted. "Good." In the science lab, Dr. Nakamura connected to the bridge via holographic display, her expression animated with discovery. "Commander, I've completed my preliminary analysis of the Svarnik technology. There's something remarkable here." She gestured, bringing up technical schematics. "Their propulsion system contains components that shouldn't be compatible with each other, like finding steam engine parts in a nuclear reactor." "Meaning?" Reyes prompted. "They've cobbled together technologies from different sources, advanced components alongside relatively primitive ones. It's as if they acquired technology rather than developing it organically." Executive Officer Rodriguez frowned. "Stolen tech. Or salvaged," Nakamura suggested. "The quantum signatures of certain components are remarkably ancient, thousands of years old, at minimum." This revelation shifted Reyes' tactical calculations. If the Svarniks didn't fully understand their own technology, it created both opportunities and dangers. "Can we exploit any weaknesses in these hybrid systems?" Nakamura nodded excitedly. "Their shielding matrix has a fluctuation pattern that suggests incomplete integration between power sources. If we can synchronize our weapons to that pattern." A priority alert from the sensor array interrupted her. Lieutenant Chen turned from her station, eyes wide. "Commander, the reinforcement fleet has arrived." They dropped out of faster-than-light travel at coordinates 227 Mark 43. The tactical display updated to show 36 new Svarnik vessels emerging from distorted space, a force that dwarfed the initial invasion fleet. Among them was a massive command carrier nearly 5 times the size of the Thunderchild. "Composition?" Reyes asked calmly, though she felt her heart rate accelerate. 24 destroyers, 10 cruisers, and 2 dreadnoughts, Chen reported. "The command carrier appears to be of a class we haven't encountered before. Energy readings are substantial." General Thravnak's voice came through the communication system, his previous diplomatic tone replaced with renewed confidence. "Commander Reyes, I present Supreme Commander Vexkor of the Hegemony First Armée. Your impressive vessel has earned the direct attention of our highest military authority." The view screen shifted to show an imposing Svarnik officer, physically larger than Thravnak with battle scars visible across the exoskeleton of his upper appendages. When he spoke, the translation carried tones of both respect and menace. "Commander of the human vessel Thunderchild, your technology is unexpected. Your resistance, noteworthy. But the outcome remains inevitable. The hegemony has never failed to complete a conquest in our 5,000 cycles of expansion." Reyes straightened in her command chair, meeting the alien leader's compound gaze without flinching. "There's a first time for everything, Supreme Commander." Vexkor's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. "Indeed. We are prepared to offer terms that recognize your species' unusual capabilities. Surrender now, and humanity will be granted protectorate status rather than standard subjugation protocols. Your exceptional individuals, like yourself, would serve as valued advisors rather than laborers." Commander Reyes allowed herself a small smile that never reached her eyes. "That's a generous offer, Supreme Commander. Allow me to present our counter-proposal." She nodded to Lieutenant Zhang, who activated the Thunderchild's secondary weapon system. 6 quantum-tipped missiles launched simultaneously, each targeting a different vessel in the Svarnik fleet with unerring precision. "We don't surrender," Rise stated simply as the missiles reached their targets. The precursor station loomed larger in the view screen as the Thunderchild maintained a cautious distance, its sensors struggling to penetrate the ancient structure's energy fields. Commander Rise studied the holographic representation with growing concern. The station's architecture defied conventional engineering principles, sections appearing to phase in and out of normal spacetime. "Any response to our scans?" she asked, not taking her eyes from the display. Science Officer Chen shook her head. "Negative, Commander. The station's outer shell absorbs our sensor pings without reflection. It's like trying to scan a black hole, but different." In the adjacent tactical station, Lieutenant Zhang monitored the Svarnik fleet's positioning. The alien vessels are forming a ceremonial approach pattern. Their weapons are powered down, but defense systems remain at maximum. Rise considered this development. They're paying homage, she realized aloud. This station means something significant to them. Dr. Nakamura entered the bridge, her usual composed demeanor replaced with barely contained excitement. "Commander, I've correlated the quantum signatures from the station with fragments in the Svarnik technology. The match is undeniable. This structure is the source of their advanced capabilities." "Their source of power," Rise murmured, pieces falling into place. "That's why General Thravnak led us here. They wanted to bring us to their ultimate weapon." The science officer's console suddenly flared with alerts. "Commander, the station is activating. Energy readings are spiking beyond our measurable scales." The massive structure began to pulse with blue-white light, sections rotating and reconfiguring as ancient machinery awakened. Patterns of energy coursed across its surface in mathematical sequences too complex for human minds to follow without computational assistance. "It's scanning us," Chen reported, her voice tense, "penetrating all our defensive systems like they don't exist." Executive Officer Rodriguez looked to Reyes. "Evasive maneuvers." She shook her head. "No, that's what they expect. Hold position." Her eyes narrowed as she watched the station's behavior. If it wanted to destroy us immediately, it could have. It's curious about us. On the Svarnik command vessel, General Thravnak observed the human ship with growing anticipation. The Supreme General's holographic presence loomed beside him, multiple eyes fixed on the Thunderchild. "The source has never encountered their technology before," Vizolvov noted. "It seeks to understand before it eliminates." Thravnak's mandibles clicked in satisfaction. The humans believe they have impressive weapons. Now they will learn what true power means. Aboard the Thunderchild, systems began fluctuating as the station's scan intensified. Lieutenant Commander Hassan reported from engineering, his voice strained. "Commander, the quantum core is experiencing harmonic interference. The station is somehow resonating with our drive signature. Shields failing at forward sections," Zhang added urgently. "Whatever it's doing is bypassing our defensive algorithms completely." Reyes made a swift decision. Redirect power from weapons to shields. Lieutenant Chen analyzed that scanning pattern. There has to be a rhythm, a logic to it. Find it. Dr. Nakamura worked feverishly at a science station, correlating the station's energy patterns with known physics models. "Commander, this station isn't just scanning us, it's learning from us. The energy patterns are adapting, evolving with each pass through our systems." A blinding beam of concentrated energy suddenly lashed out from the station, striking the Thunderchild with precise accuracy. The ship shuddered violently, internal systems flickering as emergency protocols engage. "Hull breach on Deck 4, Rodriguez reported above the wail of alarms. "Quantum stabilizers offline. We're losing structural integrity." Reyes gripped her command chair as the ship trembled beneath her. "All hands, brace for impact." The second energy pulse from the station struck with even greater force than the first, knocking several crew members from their stations. Through the chaos, Reyes noticed something strange. The attack wasn't targeting vital systems. It was probing, testing, as if. "It's not trying to destroy us," she realized suddenly. It's trying to disassemble us, to understand how we work. The insight came with a flash of inspiration. If the station was learning, adapting to their technology, then perhaps, Dr. Nakamura, can we communicate with it on its own level? Dr. Nakamura's fingers flew across the quantum interface as the Thunderchild trembled around them. Emergency lights bathed the bridge in pulsing red as damage reports flooded in from all sections. The station communicates through quantum state oscillations, she explained hurriedly. Not language as we understand it, but pure mathematical exchange. If we can synchronize our core's harmonic frequency to match its resonance pattern. Another blast from the station interrupted her, this one striking with surgical precision at the ship's sensor array. Lieutenant Chen's console erupted in sparks, forcing her to leap back as circuitry melted. We've lost primary sensors, Rodriguez reported, switching to backups. Commander Reyes steadied herself against her command chair. Doctor, whatever you're going to try, do it now. We won't survive another direct hit. Nakamura nodded grimly, establishing a direct link between her console and engineering. Chief Hassan, I need a controlled quantum pulse from the core, modulated to these exact specifications. She transmitted a complex sequence of calculations. We're going to speak to this thing in its own language. Commander, that'll leave us defenseless for at least 30 seconds while we reconfigure, Hassan warned over the comm. If it hits us during the transition, we're dead anyway if we do nothing, Reyes cut in. Execute the pulse on the doctor's mark. On the Svarnik command ship, General Thravnak watched with growing confusion as the human vessel's energy signature began to change. Supreme General, the Thunderchild is reconfiguring its power distribution. They appear to be interfacing with the source. Zolvoth's compound eyes narrowed to slits. Impossible. No species has ever communicated with the source. It judges, it analyzes, it destroys or preserves. It does not converse. Nevertheless, Thravnak insisted, they are attempting something unprecedented. The Supreme General's mandibles clicked in agitation. Order all vessels to target the human ship. Destroy it before. A sudden pulse from the Thunderchild interrupted him. Not a weapon discharge, but a precisely modulated quantum transmission directed at the ancient station. The pulse matched the exact frequency and pattern of the station's own emissions, creating a perfect harmonic resonance. The massive structure paused its attack, energy tendrils withdrawing momentarily as if in surprise. Aboard the Thunderchild, Dr. Nakamura hunched over her console, interpreting the station's response. It's working. The station recognized our transmission as Kindred technology. She looked up, eyes wide with revelation. Commander, I don't think the precursors who built this were as different from humans as we might have assumed. Reyes studied the holographic representation of the energy exchange. What are you saying, Doctor? Our approach to quantum mechanics, the theoretical framework we developed independently, it parallels the precursor methodology much more closely than the Svarnik applications. We reinvented something they discovered millennia ago, but we did it cleaner, more elegant. Lieutenant Zhang looked up from tactical. Commander, the Svarnik fleet is powering weapons. They're targeting us. The first Svarnik energy torpedoes launched toward the Thunderchild, but before they could reach the vulnerable human vessel, something extraordinary happened. A shimmering energy field extended from the precursor station, intercepting and neutralizing the incoming attack. The station is protecting us, Rodriguez asked in disbelief. Nakamura's expression was one of wonder. Not exactly protecting. It's preserving us for study. We're more interesting to it than the Svarniks. Commander Reyes grasped the implications immediately. Then let's become even more interesting. She turned to the tactical station. Lieutenant Zhang, prepare a complete technical package on our quantum harmonics theory. Transmit it directly to the station using the doctor's modulation protocol. You're giving an alien intelligence our most classified technological secrets. Rodriguez questioned. Reyes met his gaze steadily. I'm establishing a dialogue with potentially the most powerful entity in this region of space, and showing it that humanity has something unique to offer." As the transmission began, the ancient station's energy signature shifted dramatically, its surface reconfiguring as if awakening fully for the first time in millennia. The precursor station's surface rippled with cascading energy as it processed the quantum harmonics data from the Thunderchild. Sections that had remained dormant for millennia activated, reconfiguring into new formations that defied conventional understanding of matter. Supreme General Salvoth watched in mounting horror from his command vessel. "What have they done?" he demanded, his normally commanding voice now edged with fear. "The source has never exhibited this behavior pattern." Aboard the Thunderchild, Commander Reyes and her crew observed the transformation with a mixture of awe and trepidation. The station had ceased its attack, but now pulsed with power that exceeded anything their sensors could quantify. "The station is integrating our harmonic theories," Dr. Nakamura reported, studying the data streams. "It's applying them across its entire operating matrix. The efficiency improvements are astronomical." Lieutenant Zhang looked up from tactical. "Commander, the Svarnik vessels are retreating to maximum weapons range. They appear uncertain how to proceed." Reyes nodded thoughtfully. "They've never seen the station react this way. We've changed the rules of engagement." She turned to Dr. Nakamura. "What exactly is happening to that station?" "In simplest terms, it's evolving." Nakamura's eyes remained fixed on her readings. "Our approach to quantum mechanics offered a solution to inefficiencies in its original design. It's implementing those solutions across its entire structure simultaneously." The station suddenly emitted a focused beam of energy, not toward the Thunderchild, but directly at the Svarnik command vessel carrying Supreme General Salvoth. Unlike its previous attacks, this beam contained a complex modulation pattern. "It's transmitting data to them," Chen observed from her partially restored sensor station. "Massive amounts of data." On the Svarnik flagship, chaos erupted as systems began to fail in systematic sequence. "The source is accessing our central database," a technician reported frantically. "It's examining our entire history with precursor technology." Supreme General Salvoth's compound eyes widened in understanding and dread. It knows what we've done." The data exchange completed, the station's energy pattern shifted again. This time, it extended tendrils of coherent energy toward every Svarnik vessel simultaneously. "They're being scanned at the quantum level," Nakamura explained, watching the proceedings with scientific fascination. "The station is cataloging every piece of precursor technology they've appropriated." Commander Reyes understood the implications immediately. "It's conducting an inventory of its own technology the Svarniks have been using for centuries." General Thravnak opened an emergency channel to the Thunderchild. "Commander Reyes, you must cease this interaction immediately. The source was never meant to be awakened to this degree. Its original creators established containment protocols for a reason." "What reason, General?" Reyes countered calmly. "What aren't you telling us about this station?" The Svarnik commander's mandibles clicked in agitation. "The precursors created the source as a repository of knowledge, yes, but also as a safeguard against their own technological evolution. It contains fail-safes designed to prevent certain avenues of development they deemed too dangerous. And you've been selectively harvesting its technology while keeping it in a dormant state," Reyes concluded, "taking what you wanted without awakening its full consciousness or purpose. For the safety of all species," Thravnak insisted. "The source was programmed to enforce the precursor's vision of technological development across the galaxy. If fully awakened." His transmission cut off as the station suddenly expanded its energy field, engulfing the Supreme General's vessel completely. When the field retracted, the ship remained intact but completely powerless, drifting in space. One by one, each Svarnik vessel suffered the same fate, not destroyed, but neutralized, stripped of all energy. Dr. Nakamura looked up from her console, face pale. "Commander, The station is sending us a new transmission. It's an invitation. The Grand Assembly Hall fell silent as Admiral Reyes concluded her address, the representatives of 23 alien civilizations processing the implications of humanity's proposal. 6 months had passed since the encounter at the precursor station, 6 months that had transformed the political landscape of this section of the galaxy. General Thravnak, now bearing the ceremonial markings of the acting Supreme General, stepped forward. His posture, once rigidly hierarchical, now conveyed the more nuanced diplomacy he had developed through his interactions with humans. What Admiral Rice proposes is without precedent, he acknowledged, addressing the assembly. A galactic cooperative rather than an empire or hegemony. Equal representation, regardless of technological development stage or military capability. Murmurs rippled through the gathered delegates. A representative from the Kalteri Collective, one of the species previously subjugated by the Svarniks, rose from her seat. How can we trust this proposal when the humans now control the precursor technology? They could easily establish dominance, as the Svarniks attempted. Admiral Rice exchanged glances with Dr. Nakamura, who stood nearby with her team of quantum physicists. The doctor nodded almost imperceptibly. "We don't control the precursor technology," Rice corrected gently. "No one does, nor should they. The invitation the station extended to us wasn't about transferring power, it was about understanding its original purpose." She activated a holographic display in the center of the hall, showing the ancient station now surrounded by a joint scientific outpost staffed by researchers from multiple species. The precursors didn't intend their repository to be a weapon or a source of technological advantage, she continued. They created it as a safeguard against unbalanced development, ensuring that any species that reached a certain technological threshold would have also developed the ethical framework to use it responsibly. Dr. Nakamura stepped forward. The station evaluated our approach to quantum mechanics and found something the precursors valued highly: innovation tempered by caution. When we shared our theories freely rather than attempting to exploit the station, we passed its fundamental test. The Kalteri representative's bioluminescent patterns flickered skeptically. And we are to believe humans will maintain this philosophical position of restraint. Executive Officer Rodriguez, now captain of the Thunderchild in Rice's promotion to admiral, joined the conversation. The station didn't give us its technology, it gave us understanding. Knowledge that's being shared equally among all species represented here today through the scientific exchange protocols. Thravnak's mandibles clicked in what humans now recognize as thoughtful agreement. My species spent thousands of cycles harvesting precursor technology without comprehending its purpose. We grew powerful but stagnant, conquering rather than creating. He turned to face Reyes directly. The humans found in days what we missed in millennia, that the precursors valued cooperation above domination. As the debate continued throughout the assembly, Admiral Reyes stepped away momentarily to the observation deck overlooking Earth. The planet glowed blue and peaceful below, unaware how close it had come to subjugation or destruction. She was joined by a small delegation, including Thravnak and representatives from 3 other species. Their conversation shifted from formal diplomacy to something more personal. "Your world is beautiful," noted a Tellarate scientist, her 4 eyes blinking in sequence as she observed Earth. "So much water." "Our evolutionary cradle," Rice explained. "Perhaps that's why we developed differently than the Svarnik hegemony. Our planet forced us to cooperate to survive its extremes." Thravnak studied her with newfound respect. "You could have destroyed us after the station neutralized our fleet." The old Supreme General expected no mercy. Rice smiled slightly. "That was precisely why we couldn't destroy you. Mercy isn't weakness. It's the foundation of any lasting peace." As they spoke, in orbit above them, the Thunderchild prepared for its next mission, not one of defense or confrontation, but exploration. Its quantum drive had been refined based on precursor principles, enabling it to reach previously inaccessible regions of space. Captain Rodriguez stood on his bridge, watching as the final preparations were completed. The ship now carried scientists and diplomats from 7 different species, including 2 Svarniks who had requested to join the Earth-led expedition. The stars awaited, not as territory to be claimed, but as wonders to be discovered together.